What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Backup Fantasy Sports. It is Wednesday, July 6th, 2022, and after a 2-month mini summer hiatus, the podcast is back in action, and today we will be talking about Fantasy Premier League as the game officially launched for the 2022-2023 season last night, July 5th. Lots of stuff going on over the July 4th weekend. The Premier League, the official Fantasy Premier League account was launching price reveals for 5 teams a day for 4 days, building the anticipation, and then late yesterday afternoon, they finally launched the game. I'm Ewan Leith. You can follow me on Twitter at UN or UOW. I will be tweeting about Fantasy Premier League all season long, along with F1 and fantasy football and fantasy baseball. I write for rotoballer.com. I write for all of those sports over there as well. And I also write a MLB DFS column on Pitcher List. But today's main focus is going to be on Fantasy Premier League and my first draft for the 2022-2023 season. Last year was my first year playing the game. I managed to finish in the top 96,000, so feeling pretty good about that. I think I'm going to set myself with the goal of finishing top 50K, just try to half that kind of rank and just build as I still learn the game and learn things on what not to do, pitfalls to avoid, aka taking hits, all that fun stuff. There's already 720,000 players in this year's game, and the game hasn't even been live for 24 hours. So I think last year ended with almost 9 million players. So it'll be very interesting to see how many we get by the time the season kicks off on August 5th, when Crystal Palace and Arsenal open the season on Friday night or Friday afternoon, American Eastern Time. Not a lot has changed in the game. The one big difference is there is a World Cup in the middle of the Premier League season this year. So during that time period, when the game week before the World Cup ends and Boxing Day, when the Premier League comes back, there will be unlimited transfers for all FPL managers to adjust their teams, aka a third wild card, which will join the same chips as we had last year, which were 2 wild cards, a bench boost, triple captain, and a free hit. Don't think we're going to get that second free hit like we did last year because of all the COVID postponements. So we will just see how that goes. They've obviously set the standard that they can change their mind in the middle of the season if there were more postponements or something extraordinary, but it seems like they've planned for that with the unlimited transfers during the World Cup phase. So the main focus on today's episode will be to build my first draft for the 2022-2023 season. There's a lot of options, a lot of tricky decisions to make. Twitter is already ablaze with 541 versus 442. All of the defenders came in at pretty generous prices, so it does make big at the back a very exciting option, but we are literally on day 2 of the game being launched, so things could change. I don't think a single team has played a preseason game yet. Injuries, signings, all those fun things could turn several potential values and overvalued players into gold mines all of a sudden. So just keep an eye on preseason as that rolls along over the next month. Fortunately, no World Cup or European competitions this summer, so everyone should be well rested including Mo Salah. So, who just signed a new contract with Liverpool. So, if there are any Reds fans out there like myself, you don't have to worry. Salah will be staying in a Liverpool shirt for the next 3 years. At least that's what I'm hoping. Anyways, moving on to actually making a team. So, starting with goalkeeper, the most expensive goalkeeper that came in this season was 5.5 million. It seems like they are getting away from the overvalued goalkeeper list where it's pretty much just play a 4.5 guy at the back and just take the savings anywhere you can get them. So Alisson, Hugo Lloris, and Ederson come in at 5.5. I still think that those guys are just like with the options available at 5 million and even 4.5 million. I still think those guys playing for Liverpool, Tottenham, and Man City, like the fact that they're 5.5 million and they take up a valuable one of the 3 spots you can give to those teams just deflates their value to your FPL team. Alisson is probably the one I would most likely go for if I was going to attack the position in this price range, but I can see myself skipping over this entire trio of elite goalkeepers and trying to decide between the 5 million and 4.5 million guys. So we've got Saw from Wolves, we've got Ramsdale from Arsenal, De Gea's 5 million, Schmeichel's 5 million, Mendy is 5 million. It remains to be seen what Chelsea will do with their formation this season. They're rumored to Sterling and Rafinha. They've shipped out Lukaku after one disastrous season. He's back in Serie A now, and Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, Mason Mount, and then if any of those signings come through, will be leading the attack. But it'll be interesting to see in preseason how Thomas Tuchel builds his Chelsea team, see if we can get a feel like, are they going to do the wing-back formation like last year? Are they going 4 at the back? That remains to be seen. So if Chelsea looks solid at the back in preseason, we can see what they're going to do. Like Mendy is definitely a pick there at 5 million. Pope at 5 million as well. Really like him. Really impressed with him last year in my first season playing the game. And at Newcastle, I am surprisingly very pro Newcastle in this first draft that I have built. So I did pop Pope in there as a 5 million pound goalkeeper, and then I just had a 4 million backup. But Martinez at Aston Villa is 5 million. Sanchez 4.5, had him a lot last year. Guaita 4.5 with Crystal Palace. Dubravka, he's the backup for Newcastle. We assume if Pope were to go down or something in preseason, Dubravka at 4.5 million would be quite a nice value. And Raya at Brentford is 4.5. So there's definitely a lot of options at that position. The autopilot setting would be to go with a 4.5 million goalkeeper and a 4 million backup and just save a bunch of money to put into your 10 outfield players along with your bench, obviously. And right now I have Pope in there, and I think I could move down to Guaita or Raya for sure. Just we'll see. Like right now, I just felt more comfortable with Pope in there. But goalkeeper they made it a little bit more interesting this season with those top 3 being 5.5. Ramsdale was very popular last season. We'll have to see how Arsenal get on in the preseason, if they can get everyone healthy, firing on all cylinders. They've got quite a few interesting assets that could force you to not even like he's kind of in that trio with the 5.5 million guys that he takes up a valuable Arsenal spot because I already have 3 Arsenal outfielders in my team as well. So that's kind of goalkeeper. It's still up in the air. I've got a £5 million guy in there for right now, but I could easily see myself moving Pope down to Raya or Sanchez kind of thing, just depending on how things go in the preseason. Now moving on to the defense, and this is where it's going to be a huge debate throughout the preseason on who goes super big at the back and how it will affect your midfield and your forward slots moving forward. So Trent Alexander-Arnold came in top scorer last year at 208 points, and he comes in with £7.5 million. Then we've got Cancelo and Andy Robertson at 7 million, Van Dijk at 6.5, Joel Matip at 6, which is disappointing. He just instantly becomes not an option. Laporte for Man City at 6, Matty Cash at 5, Gabriel at 5, Reece James at 6, Diaz for City at 6, Chilwell at 6, Perisic, the new signing for Tottenham, is here at 5.5, and then there are a few other options as we move down the board, including Matt Doherty at 5, Kieran Trippier at 5, Takahiro Tomiyasu at 4.5 for Arsenal. So there's a lot of early Twitter debate going on about how big at the back can you go. As of right now, my draft is set up with Tomiyasu from Arsenal, Ben Chilwell, Alexander-Arnold, Kieran Trippier, and Ivan Perisic. And I feel pretty good about it. I feel like a lot of attacking returns can come from that lineup. I think it'll be a pretty uncommon back line to not have Cancelo or Robertson in there. Like a lot of people will have the Liverpool double up or the Chelsea double up. But we will see. The Perisic is currently the one I'm debating the most. I think he is a candidate. Like if I moved from Pope at 5 million in net to a 4.5, I could just take Perisic and move him up to 6 million Reece James, and that would make life a lot easier. I just saw a stat on Twitter. I think it was from Big Man Bakar, who contributes to the FPL Wire podcast, and he has his own threads every Friday. He was talking about how Perisic was, here it is, at Big Man Bakar on Twitter. Worth noting that Perisic failed to last for more than 60 minutes on 15 out of the 32 appearances, 47%, that he made under Conte in the Serie A in 2020-2021 season. Now he is 2 years older and coming to a new league. Could still be a punt worth taking at 5.5 million, but that is a scary stat. I agree, Big Man Bakar, and it does have me wondering if maybe moving down to like a Matty Cash for Villa or Gabriel for Arsenal, who I couldn't do that right now with the 3 Arsenal guys I already have. But there's definitely other options. It might be a case where you can wait it out and see what Perisic does, because he is slightly older. It's very exciting to have him in the Premier League. Definitely under Conte, very exciting prospect as a wing back for Spurs, because Matt Doherty, who came in at 5 million, it was electric before he sustained his injury last season. And I'm not entirely sure if Doherty can be healthy. I think he tore his ACL or some ligaments in April. Most of my injury knowledge comes from NFL, and if you tear your ACL, you're out for a whole season. When it happened to Virgil van Dijk for Liverpool a couple of years ago, he was out the whole season, and I think he got injured in like game week 5 or game week 6 against Everton. So I'm not entirely sure if we're going to see Doherty before Christmas. So I don't think we should worry too much about that. The big what if going on in big at the back right now, at least in my mind, is Cucurella for Brighton. There have been several rumors this summer that Man City have their eye on him, and if he gets into that City defense at 5 million, he is going to be straight in there for me. I mean, I'll still pair him up with Trippier and Chilwell, Alexander-Arnold. Just like that kind of value to get in on the City defense is, you just don't pass up on that. And I mean, that covers you a little bit for not having Cancelo. And also, I mean, I couldn't even blame you for getting Cancelo in. He was 201 points last year, second highest scoring defender in the game. Just like, there were times last season where it was just so scary to not have him, but he actually didn't do that much damage. It was more of a psychological, oh my God, I don't have Cancelo in my team. What am I doing? And I kind of am feeling that way about Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. Like, Andy Robertson was just like, he finished that season on fire. I think a very interesting and contrarian way to build your team would actually be to go with Robertson and Van Dijk. But Van Dijk just doesn't bring the attacking returns and the creative opportunities that Alexander-Arnold and Robertson provide. But still, last season, 183 points. Like, the clean sheets, they rack up. He's nailed, like, never misses a game. Not really going to be rotated all that often. So if you were looking for some early differentials, which I'm not sure I would advise, because I think sticking to what FPL Twitter will call the template in the early part of the season is the best way to make sure you can survive at any early onslaught. Like last season, I remember game week 1, it was, I think everyone was scoring 100, 120 points because everyone had Fernandez and Mo Salah. And if for some reason you didn't have those guys, you were sinking pretty quickly in the season. It felt really bad to not have those guys in your lineup. So I kind of view that, like going with the template in game week 1, similar to what a lot of people say in fantasy baseball and fantasy football, is like, you can't win your league in round 1, 2, or 3, but you sure can lose it. So sometimes it's okay to just be boring, stick to the template. And also, the template that you see on Twitter, like, these are engaged, extremely smart, passionate FPL managers that, like, not like myself, I am creating content, but there's a lot of smarter people, smarter people on Twitter that are just like, this is their actual job. This is what they think about 24/7. They get paid to do that, which is incredible for them. And if you're following a template like that, like, you're still going to be so far ahead of the rest of the people that aren't on Twitter, aren't listening to podcasts about FPL, aren't like going on YouTube watching Let's Talk FPL or FPL Focal every week. Just, you're going to be so far ahead of the game that sticking with that template isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, yeah, you're probably not going to win FPL playing that way, but only one person can win FPL, and there might be up to 10 million players playing the game this year. So it depends what you are looking for out of the game. So right now at the back, sorry, got off track there a little bit. So I got Tomiyasu, Ben Chilwell, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kieran Trippier, and Ivan Perisic. At the back, you can obviously go a lot bigger than that. I was watching Let's Talk FPL, YouTube, his first draft today, and he had Chilwell, James, Cancelo, Trent, and Perisic, I think. And he said that if there was one player he would get rid of from that to get more money in his team, it would be Cancelo. So that's interesting as well. I'm wondering if, like, Cancelo is just viewed as almost too boring now. He might be a sneaky, like, half differential when it comes to defense at the start of the year. But like I said at the top, like, there's still this whole, like, the whole preseason is, like, we're a month away. So there's a lot that can change here. Moving on to the midfield, and no surprise, Mr. Mo Salah comes in here at 13 million, most expensive player in the game. Nothing to really write home about here. It's just, like, he was the best player in the game, so he's the most expensive player in the game moving forward. But we have, and Mo Salah, week 1, Fulham, captain, just, like, he always produces in week 1, so it's kind of hard to go without him in your team to start the season well rested with the whole summer off. I know he was quote unquote disappointing at the end of the second, like, in the second half of the year in 2021, 2022, but it would just be very difficult to see that game week 1 deadline pass and just not have Mo Salah in your team. So kudos to anyone that has the bravery to do that, to start their season and then try to get him in after he demolishes Fulham. Anyways, moving on, we got Kevin De Bruyne at 12 million. Heung-min Son comes in at 12, which is very fair price, but slightly disappointing because he was 10.5 last year, I believe. So that gap to Mo Salah has shrunk, and Salah just gets more points. He's more consistent. Son ended the season on fire. He had an incredible second half of the year, but I think with the $1 million gap, it might take him out of my player pool, especially with Richarlison coming in, Kulusevski still being there, Kane still being there. Like, there's a lot of options at Tottenham to attack. Next up, we've got Bruno Fernandes. He comes in at 10 million. He's not an option for my team right now. I'm really trying to approach this season with get good players from good teams. That's going to be my motto for 2022, 2023. Like, there's incredible value, but there was a lot of times last year where I was watching a Southampton game with Broja and just, like, lamenting, just, why am I spending 90 minutes of my life watching this terrible football team, hoping that Broja can get on the end of one of these crosses. Same with Josh King or Emmanuel Dennis or Wout Weghorst. I'm really going to try to not have bad teams on my FPL team this year. I think that is a fun strategy, and I think it is probably, over the course of 38 game weeks, a prosperous strategy. So we will see how long I can continue that, and I will listen back to this before the game week 1 deadline, trying to convince myself to not have bad teams in my lineup. Anyways, so Bruno Fernandes, that's why I was talking about Manchester United. Not really a good team, but if Ronaldo left, if he gets his wish, if he gets to go to Bayern Munich, or if he gets to go back to Juventus, Bruno Fernandes instantly pops back on the FPL radar because he will be Man United's talisman. They've got a new manager this year in Ten Hag. He is, Man United fans are hoping that he is their Klopp. He, like, bring them back to relevancy in the Premier League. And the only way that happens for Bruno Fernandes, I think, is going to be if Cristiano Ronaldo leaves Man United. He's already talking about he wants to play Champions League football for the rest of his career. He's guaranteed to not do that this year if he stays at Man United. So I think it'd be a fresh start for Ronaldo. I think it'd be great for Ten Hag and Man United, as much as it pains me to say that as a Liverpool fan, if Ronaldo was not there. I think he is very talented. He's one of the, like, best players in the world. Go down as one of the best football players in history, but I think he just brings along a dark cloud. I think you have to have your team based around him if you want him to succeed in your lineup. So I just think if he goes, Bruno Fernandes can shine. Raheem Sterling is next up at 10 million. He's very interested. He's been linked to Chelsea. If he goes to Chelsea and becomes a full-time player, he is another option that you'd have to take some money out of some other places. It would probably kill the big at the back strategy if you wanted to have Salah and Raheem Sterling and an 11.5 million striker between Haaland and Harry Kane. But it would be another decision to make. I think right now at 10 million for Man City, with still how many attacking options they have on their team. I mean, they've added Haaland. Right now I'm not interested in Raheem Sterling. Jared Bowen, 8.5 million. He had a phenomenal year last year. 8.5 is a lot of money. He's probably going to be a wait and see for me. Just, there's a lot of guys here. I'm looking at my list, and there's a lot of options that I would much rather, like Jared Bowen is better than them, but is he better as an 8.5 million pound FPL player? Not sure. Starting with Phil Foden, is he finally going to get that every game for Man City? He had like COVID last year. He had some disciplinary issues, and then Manchester City were just going so deep in most tournaments that the Pep Roulette was really strong at the end of last year. Dejan Kulusevski for Tottenham, the 6.5 million pound hero. January signing last year is now 8 million. That's really tough, especially with Charleston coming in and Lucas Moura's 6 million pounds now. So there could be a lot of rotation going on with Conte's side. Also, side note while we're here, 5 subs every Premier League game for every team this year. So there's going to be more rotation. I've heard both sides of the arguments, meaning you have to have a more balanced squad. I've also heard just front load your squad because it probably means like your starting 11 guy is more likely to get in the game if he starts on the bench. So that's might have to play. I wasn't playing FPL when it was the COVID season, when they were using 5 substitutes. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a difference this year, especially with the World Cup in the middle as well. Like our international manager is going to be like, hey, Jurgen Klopp, could you maybe sub off Trent in like the 80th minute, the 75th minute, like every couple of games to keep him fresh? Although I'm not sure if Southgate wants to bring Trent, which would be hilarious for England's prospects at the World Cup if they don't bring the best right back in the world. Moving on here, we got Luis Diaz at 8 million, James Maddison at 8, Riyad Mahrez and Mason Mount all come in at 8 million. Luis Diaz sticking at 8 million is definitely an interesting option as the third Liverpool spot. I think right now you have to lock in Trent and Mo Salah just to begin with, because they are 200-point players, so you're not going to get much more than that. I've seen a lot of people talking about how Diaz is a rotation risk with Diogo Jota and their new signing, Nunez, coming into the team. But I actually think that Jota and Nunez are more likely to rotate with each other. And I think Diaz is just, in my head, he takes the Mane role that has been vacated. Sadio Mane leaving the FPL game to go to Bayern Munich. Sad times, but he was unfortunately priced last year so close to Mo Salah that it was like, well, just take Mo Salah. He scores so many more points. But yeah, Diaz at 8 million is certainly a very interesting option. He's 1 million pounds more than Andy Robertson. So it will be interesting as the preseason goes along, see if we can figure out is Diaz going to be nailed, at least in the Premier League? I mean, Liverpool will hope to go one step further in both the Premiership and the Champions League this year, as they finished runner-ups in both last season, just falling short of the quadruple. James Maddison at 8 for Leicester. He was electric to end the year. He got me into the top 100K with his game week 38 performance. So no qualms about him being 8 million. Riyad Mahrez at 8, that's a great price. It's just Pep Roulette is really tough. Maybe if Sterling leaves, he can find his way into my team. Oh, one guy I forgot to mention at 8 million is Saka for Arsenal. He's in my draft. I'm not even sure. Have I even said the 5 midfielders that were in my draft? No. It was Saka at 8 million, Mo Salah at 13, Jack Grealish at 7, Elanga from Man United, bad team, at 5 million, and Michael Olise for Crystal Palace at 5.5. Been hearing some good things about Olise. I probably should watch some preseason or read up on him a little bit more. But right now, with him at 5.5 and Elanga at 5, it kind of enables a 4-4-2 formation. I was just talking about how Mahrez at 8 million, but Pep Roulette is tough. But then I have Jack Grealish, but he's 7 million, and I think that's a great price for him. Last year was his first year in City, still trying to settle down. I think like a full preseason, just second year in a new team. I really think Grealish could have a big year, and that 7 million price tag could look very silly very early on in the season. Some other guys here in the midfield, Jadon Sancho comes in at 7.5. Rafinha for Leeds at 7, but sounds like he's on the move. We just don't know if it's going to be Arsenal, Chelsea, or Barcelona yet. If he went to Arsenal, might have to downgrade Saka to Rafinha and spend that £1 million somewhere else. Wilfred Zaha for Crystal Palace at 7. Marcus Rashford goes from a £9 million player last year to 6.5. Bruno Guimaraes for Newcastle at 6. He's definitely a candidate if I moved Grealish down to Bruno Guimaraes, I can move Perisic up to Reece James, or I can move Trippier up to Reece James, and then I would actually go 4-4-2. Yeah, probably still say 4-4-2 right now. Who else have we got here? Gabriel Martinelli for Arsenal is at 6, and Christian Pulisic at Chelsea is 6. And just, born in Scotland, American citizen, just seeing Pulisic at 6 million is eyebrow-raisingly curious. That would be very interesting if he would ever get a full-time gig with Chelsea. But if they bring in Rafinha, if they bring in Sterling, that's unfortunately not going to happen for the American superstar. Final position here is forwards that I don't have written down on a list. So you'll have to excuse me on this one as I kind of wing it on the site. Let's see here. Forwards. Right, so Harry Kane, ever heard of him? £11.5 million, 192 points last year. Very good option. I'm going to sort by price because that would help me out a lot. Haaland, the brand new shiny toy for Man City, also 11.5. Everyone's, I think FPL tweeted he's already over 65%. He's on 65% of new teams. We'll see how that works. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Most selected players so far. Haaland, 64.4. Mo Salah, 60.5. Trent, 57.5. Perisic, 49.3. And Cancelo, 45.9. So, yeah, that's going to be very template for all those guys. But I think I have 4 of those 5 guys. But, just because everyone else is thinking that way doesn't mean it's a bad thing either. But on the front line here, so Haaland, Kane, 11.5. Ronaldo's at 10.5. No, thank you. Hopefully he leaves. Jamie Vardy, 9.5. Diego Jota goes from, I believe, 8 last year. At least what he started was at 8. He goes to 9, as does Darwin Nunez, his new teammate, at 9. Richarlison, Tottenham's new signing, is at 8.5. Gabriel Jesus is 8, and he is in my team. So it's Jesus, Holland, and a 4.5 Lyle Taylor in my team right now. I mean, that's just a dead bench spot for me at this point. Timo Werner, Kai Havertz coming at 8. Dominic Calvert-Lewin placed himself off the board with an £8 million evaluation. Roberto Firmino, 8 million. Watkins, Bamford, Wilson, Antonio, 7.5. And then Danny Ings, Ivan Toney, Martial, and Jimenez coming at 7. And honestly, I'm not that interested in anyone else after this. Inacho 6.5, Daka 6. But I'm more than likely, I don't remember a lot of times last year playing 3 forwards, so I think what I'm going to do this year is try to use that forward spot as a dead bench spot. I'm not anticipating COVID ruining a lot of game weeks this year, so I think I'm going to try and get away with just having a dead bench spot and focusing on the other guys in my team. So as I have it right now, I'm playing a 4-4-2 with Pope in goal, Chilwell, Alexander-Arnold, Trippier, and Perisic, Saka, Salah, Grealish, and Olise in the midfield, and then Gabriel Jesus and Haaland up top in a 4-4-2. It's only the second day after the game launched, so there's a lot of time to change it all around. I do feel pretty good about this team. I'll need to watch a lot of preseason, like the tweet from Big Man Bakar about Perisic, Pope at 5 million. That's kind of scaring me. We'll see. Like, there's a lot of 4.5 million midfielders that could still become interesting options if they get loaned out or transferred to other teams. So I don't mind that either. And then there's unfortunately going to be injuries that will take players off the board or like discover new values. I mean, last season, right off the bat, Tsimikas became the talk of the town at 3.7 million or something when Andy Robertson picked up an injury and he missed the first couple of weeks, and Tsimikas was just lights out for those 2 weeks for Liverpool. So we'll see how those potential injuries, I mean, there's always going to be injuries in any sport, so I'm going to have to keep an eye out for that. As far as my kind of content schedule for FPL, I actually barely had an FPL launch podcast on the schedule, but we will, as of right now, I have something called a FPL mega preview scheduled for August 3rd. So I'm thinking that might be the next time I talk about it. That's a whole month away. Maybe in 2 weeks, we'll fit something else in just to build up more content and just talk about any new signings, any options that have changed. I'll try not to tinker with my team too much so I can just see how much it's changed over 2 weeks. So I'll definitely take a screenshot of this team right now and then compare it to what it looks like in 2 weeks. What else? Yeah, and then for every week during the season, I'll do a game week preview talking about some big questions, transfer debates, that kind of thing. And then every week on rotoballer.com, myself, Jamie Steed, Phil Goyette, and a bunch of other guys on the Rotoballer website will be doing a round table every week. So on Twitter, at You In or You Out, I will be tweeting that out usually every Thursday or Friday before the game week, and we'll answer some questions that we ask each other and just see to get some differing opinions. And I'm hoping to get a preseason one out in the next couple of weeks now that the game has launched with all the prices. But this felt really good to get the podcast back and running and up off the ground after a couple of months off. Just taking a nice little summer break. But yeah, tomorrow is going to be a Austrian Grand Prix preview, and Friday is going to be a Scott Fishbowl 12 preview, as I will be playing in that competition for the first time this year, and those drafts start next week. So that is going to be very exciting. But yeah, you can follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google. There's an audio recording that goes out on YouTube. So like and subscribe to all of those services. And you can follow me on Twitter at @youinoryouout, as I already said twice, I think. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys listening to this, and hopefully there is some food for thought when it comes to the FPL launch. But once again, it's been great talking to y'all. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next time.